exactly is a ransomware attack for people who don't know?
I guess the first thing I would say is a ransomware attack is usually not just it isn't the actual isn't the actual attack. They're usually delivered through a different means, whether it be through a Trojan or some other kind of malware infection is what usually gets them into your system. And then the ransomware itself is pretty discreet in that it doesn't look to regular antiviruses and regular spyware scanners doesn't look like a threat because it's not. It's just a program out there. And then the thing is then those people are using that to then see what you have and where you are and what you're doing, and then being able to see at what point they can launch this attack once they have the credentials, once they have the information they need.
So it's disguised well, and it could be sitting on
Yes.
your server, whatever it is, for a long time.
For a good amount of time, for sure. It could be sitting out there and waiting till it got the proper permissions that it needed to be able to do a successful attack.
So are there some where it's like a completely automated thing? So it's like an infection, it gets into the network and then it just starts doing a thing? Or are there some where it gets into your system and then there's like actually someone who's sitting somewhere doing stuff?
Yeah, no, both. Yes, for sure. We see with, just to kind of throw it out there right off the top, off of this is that these aren't tied to the big businesses that we were talking about, the pipeline, they get in the news. Everybody out there, it's just is vulnerable to these types of attacks. And the differences is most of these big ones that are getting hit are what you were saying, a person. They see an entry, they see a big fish, and they're going to go for it. Most small, medium businesses, there isn't that guy sitting there looking for XYZ customer, little company. Those are more on the automated side, where it gets in the network, starts seeing what's going on, and then maybe notifies somebody, and then they can start the ball rolling further. But yeah, most ones that we see are usually, 75% of them are probably an automated attack that then opens the door or alerts somebody that, hey, we see what's going on here, this is what we got, and now you can do what you want with it.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people, especially, obviously we talk about Business Central here, which means it's a lot of small, mid-sized companies. And I think a lot of people just naturally think like, well, look, I'm just a $20 million manufacturer of widgets, kind of under the radar. No one's going to come after me, right? But I don't think that's really the truth, right? I mean, these are like automated things that are just looking for servers and computers to attack. Right?
Correct. It could be anything from someone's home, and yeah, no, there's definitely no discrimination when it comes to this, if you want to say it that way.
Yeah.
It's open game. Yeah. They don't care about how much money you make, how little you make, what you're selling, what you're not selling.
So to them, it's like a numbers game.
Yeah,
right?
it's a number. Yeah, exactly what it is.
The more they put out there,
exactly.
And then eventually they just get something.
Yep.
And
just like it's very similar, and a lot of these come in with like these phishing and spoofing emails that's how a lot of these things get started. Is you open the door with these things and hope you hit, you send out 1 million emails and hope you get one person to do something, and then it just spirals into
the phishing emails, the spoof emails. I am absolutely terrified to click anything in an email anymore, even if it's from somebody that I know that's not somebody in the organization, even in the organization a little bit, but you get something from somebody that's outside the organization. I'm hovering over the links, making sure to see where it comes from, and even then, if it's an attachment,
you start thinking twice. For sure. And that's that we're going to kind of get into a little later, but that's one of the big things. Just like you said, even someone like you that knows a pretty good amount of what to look for in links and things like that. I mean, that's the biggest thing is, which we'll get into, is education is one of the things that is a real big piece of this.
Yeah. You got somebody you want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Well, recently, I know there was a Microsoft Exchange attack, and I know a lot of our customers and a lot of people around the world, use Microsoft Exchange. The attack was known as Hafnium. I think I'm saying that right. I'm not sure.
So.
But it affected a lot of nav users, Business Central users, and a lot of other people. Now, I've heard that in special cases, the FBI was granted permission to actually go into your database if you were attacked and try to clean up whatever they could. and I think I heard that they didn't even have to notify you of getting in there and cleaning it up. So it's kind of like a three-part question. The first is, have you heard about the attack? Do you know what it is?
Yes, for sure. For sure.
All right. The second part is it true the FBI was granted access and they did not need to inform the actual owner? And then answer those, we'll get into the third part.
Yeah, so it's a yes or no answer to that.
Yeah.
The FBI was granted a search warrant to be able to get into monitor systems for these known queries that they were seeing were the infections. And they were then able to go in and to disable those web queries. Wow. And without notifying the end user of it. Now, after the fact, they had to notify them after they did that. So these people did get letters from the FBI saying what they did, what they didn't do, and what they were authorized not to, what they were able to do as part of this search warrant, and what they weren't. What they were was to disable these web scripts. What they weren't was look at your data or get anything personal off of your system. Yeah, so it's a yes or no question, that one. So yeah, they got a piece, but they weren't able to just giving you the full reign to do whatever they wanted to.
And I'm assuming it's that was important to kind of stop the spread of that, right? Like in order to ensure that it didn't continue to infect other computers, other networks.
Yeah, I think what they found out is that a lot of people weren't patching the systems. They weren't taking these seriously, and so many of these systems they were determining were government or DOD, and they determined that, okay, this is national security now. These are like companies that are doing work for the government that aren't taking the, and fixing this stuff. And it became a national security thing that we got to do this if they're not, if the
so it could have granted them access into the actual government database.
Yes, yeah, or whatever they were basically working on for them. That so that's why this was done. But it is a little scary.
Yeah. So now if your organization was breached and that you got the letter from the FBI saying that we went in there and we clean up and try to do whatever they want, is there still a need to reach out to like an IT professional such as yourself? Or is it possible the FBI clean everything up once you got the letter and you don't have to worry about nothing anymore, or what?
For sure. You definitely should be reaching out. I think right in the letter, it tells you that they disabled the lowest end of these scripts and these web scripts and queries, and the rest of it's still out there. We've seen it personally on a couple of systems, and we had to get in there and do cleanup after the fact to get rid of all the rest of it that was under the hood that could have possibly started over again or opened up other doors to other things. So you should definitely, if you have any signs of it or received a letter, don't just assume it's cleaned up and you're good.
Wow.
Now, do you think all these cyber security attacks and ransomware threats, are they going to end soon?
He was trying to hold back the silence.
Yes, he was trying to hold that back. Yes, if we're on TV, we would be. No, they're not going away anytime soon, and it's not going to help anyone when they see that people are paying these things. So that's I guarantee everyone that's probably listening to this has had somebody that they know that's been affected by these, and one of the first things the government or any type of company is going to tell you is do not pay the ransom.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, in the instance of this, it's just they have no other options, and in this case, with the pipeline, it was the whole southeast of the country, shutting down, and so it was one of those things where I think a decision had to be made, and they decided to do it. But
by the way, that's what we in the biz call a softball question.
There you go. You threw it up there like a big beach ball. I like it. It's the biz.
So ransomware would actually go away, right? If nobody paid the fine.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
It'd be gone. They wouldn't do it.
Yeah, there's no positive. Yeah. That's what makes the ransom. Going back to kind of your original question on what's making ransomware is that it's the first time really in the history of computers where your viruses and your spyware. Spyware was kind of advertising. Wanted to get things pop-ups on your machine to kind of get you to buy things and do this and do that. And viruses were more just to disrupt your systems and make them kind of unusable. Now they're taking it personal. They don't care that your machine still continues running, but we're going to take your pictures. We're going to take your kids, life, your history that you have of your kids' pictures, or your company, you're going to take all your financial information, all your customer information, and we're going to take it from you. And now you got to pay for it to get it back. So they're hitting where it really hurts, where in the past that wasn't the case. you'd reload a machine and you get all your data and you back up your data and you reloaded your machine if you got that infected and just said, forget it, let's just wipe it. But you can't do that because you don't got your data. And that's.
So now that you've thoroughly scared the shit out of me.
What's worse?
Yeah. What do people need to be doing to keep themselves safe, right? To keep themselves protected? What are some of the key things that people should be doing today before it's too late? All right, and they have to deal with this.
Don't buy digital currencies.
Yeah, it's a very fine line for sure. The easiest thing that, a lot of people, sometimes hear is, let's go back to just disconnect everything. So we're not all, our systems aren't connected to anything, which just isn't the case.
The internet's just
impossible.
Yes. Let's go offline and we'll be by ourselves and just run our stuff. Without going to that, that extreme, everything is tied together now. There's too much of that. So you basically got to look and make yourself the hardest one, right? I mean, they're going to go for the low hanging fruit. And they're going to look for, especially in these random attacks, the targeted attacks is one thing. They're looking at, business portfolio and looking how they can, what they could possibly get out of these big companies. But these random attacks on small, medium businesses, you got to make yourself as likely to not be vulnerable as possible. So make the other person be the one to get hit because you were 2 steps ahead. So by doing those types of things, it's a big thing right now that's becoming popular with all types of email and authentication in general is 2-factor authentication. And the type of 2-factor authentication you use is a big deal. A lot of people So, like trying to think of something you get to your bank. Maybe somebody's bank is texting you a text message with a code, a 6-digit code. You got to we're going to send you a text. Not very secure.
Really?
Those text traffic can be intercepted very easily with someone that knows what they're doing and has access to your email account already, or they have something else of yours. Those types of things can be easily.
But it's better than not having any multi-factor authentication in place.
100%. Yeah. So now you've made yourself, one layer, right? The people that don't have it at all are the ones that are going to get hit first. And when it has, maybe even a text message would be a better thing.
Yeah.
But one of the best ways for 2-factor is using an authenticator app that is a totally, randomly generated, no kind of a message being sent across any kind of communication there. And there's several out there, Microsoft Authenticator, Google Authenticator, you can go down the list. Those types of authenticator apps are more secure than just a regular text message coming across asking you for.
So it's kind of like the analogy I think of is like I have at my house at home, right? I could have a security system that's linked to a service that's going to call the police if the alarm goes off or whatever, right?
Yeah, fire department.
Or I could just have maybe just a local alarm and it's not hooked up or something. Or I could just have a dog, right? And the dog's going to bark, right? So if there's someone who's coming to looking to rob a house, they're probably going to skip the house with the dog.
Yeah.
Because the dog's going to bark and make noise.
Yeah.
Why not just go to the next door neighbor's house who doesn't have a dog? Right.
Perfect
So
analogy. Exactly.
by having a multi-factor authentication system in place, that's kind of like the dog. Right?
Exactly.
Now there's various types of dogs or other types of alarm systems or things you can get.
Yeah.
Cameras, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But having something in place.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, it could be something as simple as, this is kind of an old thing, but my dad was known to put up a sign that says he has a security system. But he doesn't.
There you go.
You would stick it in front of your house that says protected by ADT or whatever it is, but you don't have one. Right. But if I'm the bad guy, right? Why not go next door where they don't have the sticker?
Correct.
So that's the exact theology. You want to kind of push them to the person that isn't doing it. You don't want to be that person, so you want to be a step ahead. So 2-factor authentication, password policies in general. I'm not sure where things are going to go in the next, that's a very interesting thing to me is passwords just are inherently not secure. It's just, I don't know where this is all going to go in the future. I don't think it's thumbprint. I don't know about the retina, but something else is going to change with this where passwords just aren't going to be the thing. But right now that is still our best case. So making them, randomly changing those on a regular basis, making them, I think a lot of security firms have determined that it's not the complexity as much anymore as the length.
Right.
So length is,
Really?
13 versus a highly complex 6-character one. The 13 characters, they'd rather have you use all letters.
Is that just because of the automation?
The more
it's
just the more random because it's automatically searching. So the more numbers and more characters you have is the biggest thing there.
It's killing me though.
Yeah, no,
it's killing me.
It's
when I
very
gotta
tough.
put in like my Netflix password on the television or something.
Oh yeah,
It's like 15 characters. Like, oh my God.
Without a keyboard or anything. No, I get it. So that's why I think this stuff is going to have to change at some point. Passwords are going to go away and something else you have to replace it. But what's going to be that next big thing, I guess, is what everybody's got to
Well, and I think it's interesting, passwords. It used to be like years ago, right? Your password, you were always like told, okay, don't write it down and, don't leave it on a sticky note on your computer, right? Because you were worried about other people around you physically taking your password, right?
Yeah.
But now, okay, you have to change your password every 6 weeks or every 2 months or whatever it is. And it gets hard to keep track of those passwords.
For sure.
So you have, I have to write that down.
No,
I have to keep a note of what my password is. But the thing is, I'm not really worried about people physically around me using my passwords. I'm worried about these cyber criminals from overseas or wherever they are hacking in.
That's a major difference. So you're asking me what changed in the last 25 years I've been here. That would have been something 25 years ago. I'd say, don't put it in that notebook next to your computer. Now I that's maybe one of the safer places, because that notebook can't be scanned, it can't be hacked. Now if you lose it, that's one thing, but someone's got to be able to trace it back to you. But that's what's making it tough. The longer these are, it's harder for people to remember a 15-character password when you're changing it every 45 days.
Yeah.
So people are most willing to write it down or invest in a password app, or something to that effect.
Are those garbage too then?
No, they're good, but you're putting in, your whole life's all your passwords into one app with one password that could
somebody has that
hacked.
information.
So now so no, there's very legitimate password applications out there for managing those types of things. There's whole services out there that you can pay for managing passwords. But that's why I think, in the future that, if we're going to say where things are going to go in 5 years, I kind of hope.
And let me give you an example here. So to your point of the length of passwords and the types of characters, I'm looking at a chart right here, and it talks about how quick, if you have a password type breaker, it will take, if you have a 10 character lowercase letter password, it could be 58 minutes. Something could break it, right? If you have 10 characters, but upper and lowercase letters, it's 1 month.
Okay.
If you have upper lowercase letters and a symbol, it's 5 years.
Wow.
When you go to upper and lowercase letters and symbols and you increase it to 12 characters, 34,000 years.
I'm money.
Okay, so that extra character is like exponential. In a random code breaker type thing where it's trying to guess your password.
So if you were asking me to give lowercase 6 characters or 13 digit, it's a huge difference.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. So.
I just want to really quickly call out Bank of America, my bank, who does not use multi-factor authentication, like through an app or whatever. They send you the text message to authenticate it.
Same way.
Come on, guys. You're a $1 billion organization here.
Yeah. I think mine's the same.
Yeah, I think people are.
Do they make you do it every time you log in?
Every time.
Fifth Third Bank does not even make you do it every time.
Really?
Nope.
Oh, I
log in with Fifth Third. Now maybe that's because it's maybe from your home machines or machines you use constantly. Maybe that's what it is.
Or something.
But but it doesn't do it every time, which I kind of don't like. I would think that your bank that it would do it every time, no matter what machine you're on or where you're at. But good.
So multi-factor authentication, good, long, nice, strong passwords.
Password policies
are important.
How often you're changing them. Unfortunately, I know we all hate it. But those things get put out on the black web and they sit out there, and some high school kid can go on there and use those to open up accounts and do whatever with. So, the more you can, how often you change them. And these things aren't extremes. I mean, like you said, we're talking to small, medium business group. We understand, you know, how people are, but that, it's really hard to kind of go through that, but 90 days, is a really good mix, that would maybe help out, drastically in keeping people, writing it down and, forgetting it or whatever. So
Any other tips?
other things I would say is, like we talked about earlier, was education, educating the employees. And I'm not talking, having to go to some, IT security, IT class, and get overwhelmed. I'm talking something that the regular everyday person that's, working in a business should just know, the to-dos and don'ts.
Like a 30-minute, almost like a 30-minute PowerPoint. These are some key things that you need to be aware of and understand.
Correct. Yeah. Examples, showing them what, to look for in a spoofing, phishing email message. You get that message, putting in policies, educate, the company putting in policies that, hey, our accounts, the receivable, we get our accounts payable department gets a request for changing an account number for automatic payments for ACH. We place a phone call. We don't take the email and say, oh, they just decided to change their bank to this place.
Yeah.
No,
Right.
we get on the phone and we call those people and talk to someone and get a sign off from them, in some other way. Even if you're going back to old school stuff, we're seeing people going back to requiring someone to fax over something, showing that it's, that we're doing it.
But again, it's a multi-factor
Yes.
confirmation,
Exactly.
right? Don't just take one request and run with it. Try to get a second approval or authorization or confirmation.
Yeah, because that will usually open up a conversation, and multiple people then, no, we never did that, this type of things. No, I don't think that's right. Or, we're not changing a bank. And next thing you know, you get, this thing, because these people are very smart, and especially when it comes to email campaigning, where they will watch your emails and see who you're emailing, and vendors and customers that you're emailing on a regular basis, to the point where they'll be able to create invoice numbers and be able to go back to the person and say, hey, remember invoice number this and this, we're you haven't paid it yet. Please, we need to send it to this new draft, this new account number instead of the old one. And so that, all the numbers make sense to the payables girl or whatever, and everything, looks, jives, the amounts are right, everything is right.
Yeah.
So that it looks like it's coming from them.
So is it like automated from there, or is it?
Those are usually, there's usually somebody, yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
monitoring those things and starting that chain and knowing, and finding both ends of that communication, the customer and vendor customer relationships, and watching both ends and getting one end of it hacked, so they can use that person's to talk to the other person then and do what they want to do. So those are very, and that's why your password for your email, something as simple as that gets out there. They can start things, and then those, right, even internally, that if they get a hold of yours and you're emailing me, it's an internal email, I think it's you.
Yeah.
So it's a lot less of that second thought where you do when you see it when somebody outside. Yeah, it's just, you just kind of take it. It is. So those are definitely the education and company policies are very important, and some of the, very inexpensive and very easily to implement without costing a lot of money and a lot of overhead. Just putting a policy in place that, we hired a new person, these are the policies we go through when they get hired, those types of things.
It's almost like you're it's education, and that you're showing people these are the types of things that are out there, and these are the things some key things that you need to be aware of and be on the lookout for. But I think that also helps to explain to people why you have some of the precautions you have in place.
Exactly.
Like why you change your passwords, why you have to have multi-factor authentication and stuff. So they understand that it's not just because Keith, the IT guy, is a pain in the butt.
Exactly. No, that's exactly it. No, it shows them why we're doing what we're doing, why they can't, why can't I just put my home computer on the network when I come in and listen to music, through the company network? No, you can't do that.
Right.
We don't know what's on your home computer, who's, what your kid's been doing on your home computer that you brought in. So it definitely lets them kind of a little bit more knowledge that we're not just doing it to be the bad guys.
That's funny. I went about a year or two ago doing went to the bank, I don't know, it was a refinance or something. And they had asked for all these documents, so I put them on a USB drive, and I took it to the bank, and I was meeting with the guy, and I go, everything you need's right on here. And he looked at me, he goes, yeah, I can't plug that into my computer.
Who do you think you are?
Right? I totally understood. But it never crossed my mind. as a, I'm just like, hey, I'm gonna make this really convenient for the bank and just give them all this stuff on this USB drive. But he kind of looked at me like, yeah, not a chance, not gonna happen.
Well, he knew what he was doing then.
Yeah, right. And this was quite a while ago.
Yeah, and we're seeing that, this stuff is already in place in most large businesses, right? And it's still things are occurring to them. So the small businesses usually don't have any of this stuff in place. So, an education program and this isn't this is something that unfortunately is something that we're all gonna be living with for the foreseeable future. Like we just said, jokingly, this ransomware going away. But we also, this stuff is going to evolve just like it has, like I said, for the last 25 years. So this isn't you educate once and you're done. This is a yearly kind of thing, an annual thing you should review and see what new stuff is out there and make yourself available. There's plenty of forums. There's a lot of things that a company can do themselves without having to pay to kind of just see what's the latest stuff. There's plenty of information out there.
So why do you think a lot of these SMBs don't implement this type of stuff? Is in my head, I think it's because a lot of them are just sit back, and they're thinking to themselves, this can't happen to us, right? It's all about large businesses who have a lot of money.
Yeah,
you think that's one of the main reasons?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. It's easier, just like anything, right? I mean,
but it probably happens to SMBs more than the large companies.
Yes, for sure. There's just a lot of it, family environment. We know everybody that works here, those types of mentality. We've been doing it for 100 years this way, and it's always worked. But then they don't think of all the things that have changed in the last 100 years that's, making them more productive.
Yeah.
Because of the computers.
You have the internet now.
You have the internet now. You're doing billing you're doing 20 times more volume with the same amount of people. How do you do that? Well, it's because these computer systems are in place so now we got to protect them. And you're accepting things electronically. You don't have the people going and doing all the paperwork of scanning checks and it's all all this stuff that's automated. It's all this great stuff, right? That's how this all got here, right? We didn't just do this to create these, right? It was all because of making things more productive, making things easier.
Yeah.
Getting more things out of the computers and making it life on people easier. But then unfortunately, people use that to our the bad people took it and always is, right?
Yeah. So let's say we tried our best. We put all these things in place, but Bob over in accounting was just having a bad day and he clicked on that link and it had introduced a virus and
he thought his Viagra order was in, right? He didn't track his he had a tracking number for Viagra.
And now we were hit and now our data is corrupted, right? So what about backups?
That's it. No, that's the I guess last thing of protection, last frontier, you want to call it, however you want to say it, of protection for your network. If all these other fail safes, don't work, having backup is your last thing. They can't take those from you, especially if they're secured backups. A backup on a USB thumb drive that's still in the server overnight, that's been sitting in there for 30 days, probably not a good backup because they can encrypt that. They can do stuff to that backup as well. Now, a backup that's going off to a secure location like Microsoft Cloud, Azure backup, things like that, to where there's encryption in place and you got to have proper keys in order to get that data out of the system. They're not going to be able to get up to there to encrypt your backups. And this is just more than just even encryption. I mean, right? We've had several, over the years, 25 years I've done this, had a couple of fires at customers where these things would have been the same kind of thing, right? Yeah. You're just doing it for different reasons now, and it's becoming a bigger thing than just a flood or a fire. You're doing this for these virtual people that can just get in from anywhere at any time.
So cloud backups. Now, am I backing up like my whole server so that if my server something happens, I can just restore to a virtual server, or am I restoring my actual data, like my database and my files?
This is all a la carte, and depending on your company's needs, I guess I would say what you can live with as a company. Maybe the 100-user, $200 million company would say that we have to have backup in 4 hours. We got to be back up. Our system has to be back up. Now they would need a higher, yes, they would want a disaster recovery in the cloud sitting there that could be spun up as soon as that network went down. that we can have them back up. Now, maybe you have mom and pop 5-user company, you know, a couple 100 gig of data, says, you know, we're probably good, you know, as long as we know we have our data, we're probably good to be able to say, let's maybe back up only weekly to the cloud, and maybe we only back up our data, the stuff we can't recreate. We can install a new program, a QuickBooks or Nav or whatever it may be that they're running as a small business. But they can't get that data back. And so there's definitely different ways you can do this depending on your needs and your financial. I mean,
and obviously it's like, you know, for Microsoft Azure backup, it's all based on that volume of data and the frequency of your backups, right?
Correct.
So just to make clear. So if a smaller company and I'm just backing up my ERP database and like maybe a shared network drive up to a cloud, that's obviously going to cost me much less per month than say a full disaster recovery plan where I can just within a couple hours have some servers fully up and operational.
Yeah, that's why this is definitely not, there's no cookie cutter price or option you can give, because everybody's going to be different. And it doesn't always go off of you know, how big customer company is by employees or how big their data is. It may, you know, just is a personal thing. Some people would maybe take it a lot more seriously and want to be able to, no, we can't, I don't care how big, you know, so it's really a personal thing, and a company has to set those expectations. And we gotta be able to tell them that as well. So, hey, just because we have these doesn't mean that you're going back to yesterday or an hour ago. No, you got these, and at this price, you're gonna be back to maybe last week. But was last Saturday a big deal compared to ever if you didn't have anything?
Yeah.
So that's where you gotta weigh that cost and say, okay, yeah, no, we could make up a week's work, we make a week's of data.
Yeah.
Not a big deal.
There's one trend that I've definitely seen, and that's this. Of all the companies I've seen where they have gotten, you know, they're victimized by one of these types of attacks, in almost every single case, they didn't have any or many procedures or protocols in place up front. But after they got back up and running, I think they implemented all those things that you mentioned.
Yeah, no, it's very common. It's almost, I haven't seen one that, you know, we've seen that hasn't went that way.
You learn from your mistakes.
Exactly. You got me once, you're not going to do it twice, kind of thing. You know, I mean, I got lucky.
Man, you just got to go do it, right? I mean, you just need to make sure you're protected before it happens.
Yeah. Now it's just like, you know, it's not going to be the thing of, if it's just be when.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's a matter of time where every company is going to get hit, and it just depends on to what level, you know what I mean? And, having some of these things that we talked about, like, you know, I don't think we brought it up, but like, it's not the everyday thing anymore. Just having, you know, some Norton antivirus on your computer that's, you know, running some old school functionality. There's a lot newer cutting edge AI threat protection that is learning things, not going off of a database of, well, these threats were out here 2 hours ago. Well, these are all 0-day kind of thing. These are happening on the fly that some guy's writing code and throwing them on your system. So you got to have a system in place, and something like that, that can learn on the fly as well would help. And maybe you do get, maybe you do get infected or you do get hit, but it stops it before it gets really far. Yeah. So it goes, before it gets really bad. So there's all those layers, just making it a little bit harder on them and putting one more roadblock in their way, where maybe they just say, you know what, I'm going to go to this guy. I got nothing. It's wide open and easy to get to.
All right, let me ask you a question. So this being a Business Central podcast and whatnot, and you being the IT professional specialist that you are, what do you think is more secure, on-premise or cloud software?
Yeah, I looked at this question that you gave me for a while when I was writing down my answer to it, or at least what I could think. And I think it's definitely changed. Right? I mean, it's just, I guess, mentality, right? You get stuck in your ways. You over time, you do things. I've been doing on-premise stuff forever, and we've seen the benefits of going cloud over time. And everybody adapts and sees the benefits and the negatives. And so I think, I think there's benefits and positive and negatives to this. I don't think there's an answer I'm going to give. Exactly. But like you guys are going to want, where I'm going to say the cloud is definitely the way to go, or on-premise is the way to go, because it really depends on the company that's implementing that, right? I mean, if you're a company that's not going to take things seriously, with your on-premise stuff and just let things roll, like we kind of talked about, where people just think, I'm not gonna get hit, I'm not gonna hit. Then a SaaS, online, Business Central hosts
Office
online.
365.
Yes, that's all perfect for you, right?
Yeah.
Microsoft's taking care of it. It's getting all updates on a regular basis. There's backups being done for you. So it gives you a lot of that sense of, feeling safe, right?
Yeah.
Without, like, hey, I don't have to worry about that stuff. But again, then now you're going, back to you are relying on them,
Yeah. So
Microsoft to as well, to make sure that they're doing what they say they're doing and that there are no vulnerabilities. Like something like this Exchange attack that we just were talking about, the one with the what is it called, Hafnium?
yeah.
That we talked about. It's a perfect example of something that changed my mentality. Maybe a year ago, I said, you're on premise, you can turn yourself off, you can do a lot of, have your data out on somewhere you don't know where it is or who can get to it. Maybe on premise. But a year ago, I would have said that. Now, after this happened, it woke me up to the fact that in all the press releases and all the documentation from Microsoft on the fixes and what systems were affected, it affected everything from Exchange 2019 back to 2010 on premise.
Yeah.
And a note on the bottom that said Exchange Online was not affected by this.
Yeah.
So that kind of went to me, okay. So there exactly, there's, nothing was required there. So it is a constant thing, but there are going to be companies that you're just, that on-premise just makes sense for.
Yeah.
Right. But for the medium, small businesses, I think it's that curve is switching,
It's funny that you weren't able to give like a definitive answer, because when I was writing this question down to ask you, a year or so ago, like you're saying, I remember you talking about, on-premise being a little bit more secure. And then recently you had said, you gave an example of email hacking, right? When a lot more Office 365 accounts get hacked, but it's only one account that gets hacked, as opposed to when they hack it on your server, your entire server gets hacked and all the information with it. So
we had, and I'll talk Business Central specifically. I think I tell people, especially in the small to mid-size. So when you get upper mid-market, they have a big staff of people and they take all this stuff very seriously. Maybe it's different, but at the smaller side of scale, I think it's like, wait, so you think you're gonna take better care of this and put better precautions in place than Microsoft is gonna be putting in place if you're running Business Central online?
right.
Like now they're like, well, is my data backed up? It's like, yes. Right? Like well, how do I know my backups are getting it? It's like your backups are getting done. I said, now there's a policy, I think, with Business Central, you can actually pick a restore point at any point within the past 30 days and restore your Business Central data back to that point. No, very few, if any, of our older nav Dynamics customers on premise went through the trouble to set up that level of
and that ease.
Ease of restorability of their data.
Microsoft's spending more than $1 billion a year on security and backups and whatnot. So unless you're spending the same, you're
so I guess
this
kind of leads into my next thing. We're not trying to go either way again with this, but staying on the fence in that, and I want to put that out there for anyone listening, that Office 365 data is not backed up. Everybody thinks their data is on Office 365. My email is safe. It's backed up by Microsoft. It is not backed up.
Really?
If you want to go back to a year or someone gets into your account and hacks your stuff and deletes all your email, it is not backed up. Microsoft can get it back for you to a point in time, but there's no guarantee that they're going to get everything back to you in a timely manner.
Can you pay extra for the backup or no?
There is. Yes, always something there, catch. But I just wanted to throw out there because everybody just assumes when they're on the cloud that everything's being backed up, just like, right? That should be an assumption that should be made. And I think even us as IT people thought that was the assumption, right? It's out there. It's on your system. It's not going to go down. It's not going to go away like it would if it was on our system. If they get encrypted or hacked, they're going to have all your data and restore it back.
Right.
But if you just had a particular thing where you had a legal lawsuit that you had to go back and find some emails that you deleted or got rid of 5 years ago, that is not going to be.
See, I wouldn't assume that they did back that up. Like that.
So I just want to throw that out there for people, because that's something that a lot of times people just say, well, it's on the cloud.
See,
It's got to be hosted, it's got to be backed up. It's backed up.
I would assume.
But it's not for auditing, not for historical backups where you can go back and find things from several years ago. And there are things out there, because we were having a lot more companies because, right? I mean, how much business being done over the phone anymore where you could record a conversation compared to email? Right? I mean, I'm signing off on $100,000 deal. I'm sending you an email back and authorizing it with a PO, right? Or PO number, maybe.
Yeah.
But, so it's all through this communication. So if something goes awry in any of those communications, right? So there are things out there for auditing and logging and archiving and for HIPAA, all these types, PCI compliance, certain things require that you have that history for 7 years or whatever it is. So
yeah, it's very important. I mean, what, 15 years or maybe 20 years ago now, I guess. Yeah, that authorization was a physical signed contract, a piece of paper that got FedExed or faxed over, and then you took that piece of paper and you put it in a file cabinet in a folder somewhere. But now that's not happening.
And then everybody used to talk about, well, what if our building burns down? What are we going to do with all that? We got to get this all on a computer, right? And now we're dealing with a different part, right? We're dealing with a little different part of the problem.
What's going to be there to combat
that?
Then?
My takeaway is it's a cost of doing business, frankly.
Yes.
Now, if you want to protect your company or invite your data, right? And it doesn't have to be a significant cost.
No.
But it is a cost that you need these things in place to make sure that you're protected as much as possible.
And Microsoft is seeing their shortcomings in certain areas, and they're making those things available to people at a better, those regular security features available. In the past, those were additional add-ons, so nobody did it, right? They just, well, with the gaming's got to be good enough, right? Well, no, you add them on. Well, they're making some of those things like base multi-factor available as part of the base packages. Because everybody's seeing this is affecting everybody. This isn't just, it's negative for anybody to say that, hey, my Office account got hacked. It doesn't look good on Microsoft or anything like that. So they want to try to eliminate these things and put these things in place as well. So, it's a very fine line.
All right. So before we wrap this up real quick, we're going to do the 5-question speed round segment. Usually it's 5 questions, but Keith, since you're special, it's 7 questions. I'm going to blast through it real fast.
Yes or no questions. If it's a yes or no answer, you get blasted.
Come on, I wrote down little
yes or no. Yes or no. Everybody knows the rules. Yes or no.
Well, have you said it straight? Because I had ones I had add-ons. So all right, let's do it.
The assumption with this is crazy. All right. Number 1, do you see a future where artificial intelligence will be able to block cyber threats?
Yes.
Number 2, will the Chicago Bears have a win-loss record better than 8-8?
Yes.
Number 3, are you a certified Sonic Wall security administrator?
Yes.
Number 4, can having cybersecurity measures in place bring down your insurance rates?
Yes.
Ooh. Number 5, will the greatest team ever, the Chicago Cubs, make the playoffs this season?
Yes.
Number 6, in your opinion, are organizations doing enough to secure themselves from cybersecurity attacks?
No.
And last but definitely not least, number 7, should every organization implement cybersecurity protection at the gateway level?
Yes.
All right. There you have it. Well, stay tuned. We'll talk about KumaVision in our next app segment. So, Keith, thanks a lot for joining us. We truly appreciate it.
Keith, I enjoyed my Mike's Hard Lemonade. It's
very refreshing.
It is history, and I'll go grab another one shortly.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Talk to everybody later. As we end today's podcast, we want to give a big thank you to everyone who listens, shares this podcast, and leaves us reviews. You've taken a good amount of your time out of your day, and we truly appreciate it. Thanks again. And don't be afraid to email us at marketing@solsyst.com with your tips for the podcast, or maybe you'd even like to be a guest during an episode.